This is the Fight Strength Podcast.
All right, let's go.
Get the insight and perspective from two elite strength and conditioning coaches who work with the full spectrum of fighters from amateur to UFC champions.
That's it, JJ. Finish it.
We don't just talk about it.
Keep moving.
We are about it.
Don't stop. Let's roll.
We live this.
Come on, D.
You're listening to the Fight Strength Podcast with me, Phil Daru, and McGregor McNair.
Good job. That's how we roll.
All right, what's up, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us one more time. This is Fight Strength Podcast, episode number 41. You're here with myself, McGregor McNair, and the man himself, Phil Daru. What's up, Phil?
My man, how you doing, man? So this is the second episode as a co-host. How do you feel right now, Mac?
I feel great, man. I feel like, I feel like this is a really good platform. I'm absolutely loving it.
Yeah, we had a great time, man. I did 10 days out there in Australia, and I can honestly say that it was one of the better times that I've had doing these seminars and definitely going to these different countries out there. But you guys truly, made me feel like home, and I appreciate that for sure, because it was a little at the end of it all, as you could see my face, I was kind of missing my family and things like that. But you guys made me feel welcome, and still, I was happy to be out there because I enjoy you guys. So I do appreciate that. I wanted to tell you that on air, so everybody knew that though too.
No, it's all good, man. It was a pleasure. We could definitely see it was starting to wear on you towards the end. But I mean, it was it was wearing on us as well. It was 10 days of just non-stop action. Just from one thing to the next to the next to the next. So you weren't alone. We were all feeling it by the end of the 10 days. But I mean, I wouldn't change anything for the world, brother. It was such a good time.
Yeah, man. So I am finally getting away from the jet lag. I think it's just a mindset, to be honest with you. I just may be tired because I've just been nonstop since I got off the plane, and actually when I was on the plane. But I did manage to knock out 4 fucking movies that I haven't seen yet on the plane, which is just crazy for me because I don't watch anything. I don't watch any movies. I don't watch any shows unless it's Vikings. And I was able to catch up on 4 movies and still be able to knock out a couple of my programs that I needed to write up.
Wow.
So I was doing well, man. It was the 26-hour or 23-hour plane ride, and I made the best of it.
That's crazy, man. Do you remember what movies you watched?
So I watched Den of Thieves. I remember that was a good one. I watched Planet of the Apes just because I was just bored at that point. I watched Rampage with The Rock, which was awesome. I'm a Rock fan, man. Dwayne Johnson is my guy. He's made it out to American Top Team a couple times, and if he does decide to run for president, I will vote for that guy. I'm just gonna say that right now.
Dwayne Johnson, yeah, loving it. Yeah, you can't not love The Rock.
I might have to pull some strings and get him on the show at one point, man. I'm gonna try. It's gonna be hard, but I'm gonna try for sure. He's definitely a busy man.
Do it, man. Just make it happen. That would be sick.
Yep.
So yeah,
So what was your week like? What was your week like this week? What'd you do? What's going on?
Well, man, this was actually my first week of 12-week comp prep for a powerlifting competition coming up in October, which is the GPC Melbourne Cup. And my powerlifting coach, shout out to Ben Marker from Mark Performance. He's come up with a really, really good, really solid 12-week comp prep for me, focusing on my individual weaknesses and my biomechanics, and he's chosen accessory movements really, really cleverly to kind of target the weak points within all my lifts and all my idiosyncrasies. So yeah, it's really exciting being back on and bring on the next 12 weeks, man. I'm ready.
Yeah, that's good, man. I met Ben when I came out there, and he's definitely a knowledgeable guy. Very hard worker, and you can see he shows passion in what he does, and we'll get more into detail on coaching as a passion. And if, like I said before, and I said it in seminars, it's like if you don't like what you're doing at all, if you don't enjoy the process and helping people, this isn't the thing for you, so you could actually see it in him. And it's good to see that a coach is actually utilizing another coach, where, you know, some coaches may just have too many egos in it and they don't want to actually reach out for help. And I've seen you do that, which is awesome. And it just shows that you have humility and you actually are looking to better yourself with another coach that you respect, which is cool.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. You know, the thing about working with Ben, as a coach myself, to be coached by Ben, is you know, I'm not just learning about the powerlifting preparation and the real specific stuff for peaking for one day, 9 lifts on one day. I'm also learning a lot from Ben about coaching, because he's such a different person to me. He's absolutely the right guy for the job to be coaching me right now personally. So I'm learning a lot about his way of really getting inside my head. You know, he can tell straight away when I walk through the door at his gym what kind of session he's going to get out of me on the day. So just little things like that, the nuances within the art of coaching, which you talk a lot about. I'm really appreciative of Ben's style in that aspect.
Yeah, I think it takes a certain type of individual to actually be able to see a client or an athlete and see exactly what you're going to get out of them, like you said, man. And you may have to auto-regulate at times, and you may have to ask questions and go off of instinct. And if you are a good coach and if you do have experience with people, this will be a lot easier for you. But it's going to take time, you know, and you can see if a coach has actually been doing this for a while, how well they can then they can actually see the problem and then fix it on spot too, not just like, okay, within a couple of minutes or 30 minutes into the training session, like right when you walk in the door, you can actually see their the mannerisms and things like that. And then from there, you can actually correlate what you're trying to do or what you need to accomplish and what you need to pull back on. So it does take a certain type of individual. It takes a long time of coaching and understanding of people to really relay that over. So that's cool to see, and I'm glad you found that, man. And like you said, man, I think you do that too very well, you know, with your kids that you have, especially with the grapplers, man, because they're training nonstop all the time, especially, right. I mean, they're young kids, some of them, but like at most of the time, man, they got stress too. I mean, and I know it's like, oh, these older people are gonna be like fucking millennials and they don't got no stress and this and that. But trust me, these kids got stress, man. They're trying to make good grades, trying to make it to college. There's stress out there, there's peer pressure. So I get it, and it's good, man. I want to start to really hone in on these youth athletes, because that's the future of where the sport is going. We want to make sure that we're giving them the right amount of training, especially from a physical preparation standpoint. Would you agree?
I would, absolutely. I would agree 100%. I think it's such a privilege and an honor to be a part of the journey at such a young age with these young guys that me personally that I'm working with. There's just so much potential in these young guys, and you know, if we rewind and go back to when, you know, we were that age, imagine if we had have had the level of coaching that's available to these guys. You know what I mean? It really feels like you're a part of something really special from the ground level, and to really help develop these guys into the best possible athletes they can become. So I'm really thankful, I'm really grateful for that opportunity, and it's a really fulfilling journey to be on.
Yeah, it's good, man. I mean, at the end of the day, we only have those kids that are actually really going to take it to the next level for us and keep prolonging the sport. Whereas nowadays, kids are actually getting into mixed martial arts way earlier, as early as like 12 and 13 is what I'm seeing. So by the time they're 16, they have a skill set of a guy that used to be 35 years old, where they're knowing everything, and they're able to transition into different modalities and into the skills levels, from wrestling to BJJ back up to striking, and being fluent with those transitions. And you can't really get that unless you actually trained all mixed aerobic systems and all mixed aerobic sports, and the skills in general, to be optimal and to perform at the best that they can be. And I think that this is where the sport is headed in a lot of ways, is where these kids are getting talented very quickly. So a lot of things are going to have to change, and we're going to have to start treating this sport like a true profession. And that includes skills training and physical preparation. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So What do you think? You think I'm right or what?
I think you're right. I think, a human being will adapt to whatever its surrounding is to a certain degree. And I think with the complexity of all of these modalities, especially for mixed martial arts, with the GPP and the skills training, there's a lot of complexity and there's a lot of varied demands of those sports and those skills. And for youngsters to be adapting to all of those different stimuli at such a young age, and that just becoming their normal, I think that's fantastic. So over the long run, less will kind of become more in a sense, because they've already adapted to all of those modalities. They won't have to work so hard to develop every one of them. You know what I mean? They can focus in a little bit more on specifics rather than having to do all of these things at once. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I think that also it eliminates staleness and in the law of accommodation, because you are training multiple things at once. So when you're a kid, our main basic is to basically train them generally and make sure that they're getting a bunch of different movement patterns so that they can have a base of biomechanics that can actually transfer over into a specific sport. But since the sport requires a mixed demand and you have to be almost a jack of all trades, you're actually getting the best of both worlds when it comes to that. So, and at the end of the day, if they wanted to transition into just boxing at 18, they're going to be way better off than just the kid that's been boxing.
That's
because
right.
They know how to move a lot more efficient, and they know aerobic demands, and they're actually adequate in how to use their body and their energy in so many different ways. So I think that that's going to be a problem for a lot of guys, especially, the older guys that are still in the game trying to hang with the young guys, which is going to be pretty tough. It's going to be pretty tough in the next 5 years for sure.
Yeah. And, just on a slightly different note, you and I were talking while you were here in Melbourne, we were talking about, Vasyl Lomachenko and how his father put him through ballet and different forms of dance from a real young age before he ever let him string on the boxing gloves, right? Well, just touch on that. I mean, I think we were talking about your son and what you've got planned for your son and his athletic development.
Yeah, so next weekend he turns 4 years old, so I definitely wanted to just start him off in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, doing some gymnastics so he can roll and do some tumbling to learn how his body moves, his kinesthetic awareness, his proprioception. I also want to make sure that he's doing a ball sport or a team sport so that he can have the ability to understand how to be a captain, how to be a leader, and then also how to make sure that he can create a team around him and be a team player in a sense, where he's not just singled out and has like he's just a one-man mentality, where that's not always going to be the case. You need to have a team around you regardless. Even if you're in an individual sport, you need to have a team of guys and girls that can help you get to where you want to be. So that's going to be something that we do. And then obviously I want to make sure his striking and his hand-eye coordination is there. So we'll be doing some boxing and some kickboxing, some type of martial art there. And, we'll see where the chips may roll. He may not even want to play sports. At the end of the day, I'm not going to push him to do whatever he doesn't want to do.
No, for sure.
But I want to make sure. Yeah, I want to make sure he has the athleticism and the capabilities as far as coordination, balance, stability, all those things encompassing, that he can actually live life, as a solid human being and move efficiently. So health is not an issue later on in life too as well. So I just want to make sure that he gets that right away. His nutrition is on point, and he knows how to adequately, train the right ways and also recover in the right ways. And I know he's only 4 years old, but at the end of the day, I'm trying to train him and teach him how to live like life healthy and comfortably. Yeah.
Man, I tell you, if this kid does choose the sporting or the combat sports life, man, he's going to be a fucking beast.
Yeah, man. Hey, with a name like Leonidas, man, we got high hopes, obviously.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, man. So, but this week's been good. I got here on a Tuesday, or actually I got here on Monday. I left on Monday and actually got here on Monday, so that was funny. But
Crazy
Tuesday
how that
I started back up. Yeah, it's Tuesday. I started back up my day, went to American Top Team. I got some baseline testing on the beep test. I've been beep testing people like crazy, thanks to Dan and you setting up that MAS. So now I have a calculator to plug in, and I've been testing guys for baselines and doing all that. So everybody's been on the beep test so far.
Everybody been loving it or hating it?
Hating it and loving it at the same time. And I actually love watching the shit because it's even funnier for me.
Yeah.
And you know what though, man? These guys are so competitive, and like if they get a bad time, it's almost like they just fuck up their whole week almost, you know? So, like I gave a standard. I gave a standard because I told him that Dustin had got stage 14, and most of them are hitting around like I think let's say Edson Barboza got 11, right? And this was after sparring too, so we gotta make sure we put that not right after, but like 6 hours later. So
on the same day.
Yeah, same day. And I have to do that because that's the schedule, right? I can't go away from the schedule. It is what it is. I have to make do with what I have. But so Edson Barboza did 11. Another young guy, Jordan Young, for Bellator, he got an 11. And but at the end of the day, they're not even in camp yet. So this is going to be good to see, you know, how well we can take their GPP and then into camp. And then I'll test them about 6 weeks out from their fight, right? You know, a little bit right before our deload, and obviously a little bit before they start to do their weight cut around a week out, because I don't want the weight cut to be an issue when it comes down to testing parameters. So I'm going to go ahead and retest them 6 weeks out, and we'll see how it goes. And I honestly think that they're going to do it better. And I think that also was a tempo type thing, you know, with understanding how to set the pace. A lot of them were fucking running, sprinting the first run. And I was like, whoa, calm the fuck down. And, you know, at the end of the day, they just want to go.
Yeah.
So, like, I had to calm them down and tell them to catch the pace.
Yeah, well, you should be able to walk the first few, right?
Almost. I mean, for them, it's no problem. But, like, they fucking just bat out of hell like it was a true sprint. And I told them, but I'm telling you right now, man, fighters, you know how it is. It's go, go, go. It's 100% or nothing. So I was like, listen, you're going to hear a beep. And then you're going to jog to the next cone. It's only 20 meters away. You're good. And they fucking boom, just start sprinting to the next cone. I'm like, chill out.
Yeah, jog.
You're going to do a stage 3 right here, and you're going to feel like shit. So, but pushing it, you know, to a level, and they, you know, they felt it a little bit too. So it was a good little workout for them. I mean, and then for me, it gave me the baseline test. So I was happy with that. So I've been doing that all this week. Tomorrow, I'm actually going to test another guy, you know, to start his camp. And then Dustin shows up for the Nate Diaz camp. He's going to show up in September. So we're doing that. I ended up writing a full program for him for his out-of-camp program. So that'll be a 4-week one, leading him into 9 weeks out, to where we'll go ahead and we'll set that baseline testing from a physiological, physical, and a mental assessment.
Sure.
And
can you touch on any of the attributes you're hoping to develop in his off season, in his out of camp 4 weeks?
For him right now, I want to develop a higher anaerobic threshold. Mm-hmm. I want to develop a higher rate of force production, but we can only do that by building up a little bit of strength, endurance, because at the end of the day, right now, he's a little bit big, believe it or not. He gained a lot of muscle from when he started, from when he was 55 when he started to now, and he's a solid 155er, walks around at about 183, 184, and he's very lean. So for me to put on any more muscle mass is going to be pretty hard for him to cut without cutting muscle and then without cutting strength. So I want to make sure that we're maintaining our muscle mass, increasing some strength, and then increasing our aerobic capacities, especially when it comes down to Nate Diaz and what he has going on, because he's a constant pace guy. So
yeah, sure.
Our main thing right now is also want to make sure that he's healthy and he's moving efficiently. You know, movement and angles are going to be a key factor for the fight. So we're going to be working a lot of agility, in and out movement, multi-directional patterns. We'll be working a lot of low-level plyometrics and a lot of force absorption, so he can actually move a lot more efficiently efficiently inside the cage for all 3 rounds. The good thing is it is only 3 rounds.
Yeah.
So we can move, and we can move a lot. You know what I'm saying? And he can pick Nate apart, be faster, work on that speed endurance and power endurance, getting closer into the fight once we develop those other demands. And then from there, we just go to the fight and dominate.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. And I think, you know, if the first Conor fight with Nate was anything to learn by, you know, to some degree, one would have to see the fight with Nate as a long game, just from Conor's strategy, which was, you know, he had a really high output for the first 2 rounds, and he ended up paying the price for it. So even though it is only 3 rounds, people can still be baited into that style of fight, which is so draining and really favours Nate with his distance, his control of the range, and his ability to get out of harm's way really quickly while you're burning yourself out with a really high output. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the one thing that we also have to watch out for is, like, when you get in on Nate, he catches people trying to come back out a lot, and that's what. And especially with his reach, Conor tried to do that. And Conor usually is the longer guy, and he wasn't the longer guy in that fight. So when he would try to, like, a step back too, he would get caught with a check hook. So with that being said, he has to be able to be in and out, but also use his head movement and use his angles more than anything. On the way out, and obviously keep his hands up and things like that. But that's for the skills guys and the boxing coach, and that's for Daya to really do. But for me, I need to make sure that he's constantly moving, but moving efficiently, and he's also creating angles by pivoting and turning and working on his hips and his contralateral stability and his stability in general in his core, so that he can also, because Nate does throw body shots and he throws good body shots too. So we want to make sure we're tight there, we're strong there. But at the end of the day, they're going to clinch, and I want to make sure that Dustin is the stronger guy in the clinch. So that grip strength, contralateral stability, having a base of hips, and having just the ability to stay heavy too, which is going to be really good. Because if he gets him down, we want to keep him down. And Dustin has a very, you know, underrated BJJ game, and people will see that if it does go to the ground. Like, you know, Dustin is a black belt in jiu-jitsu. People don't know that, and he can definitely hold his own on the ground for sure.
Yeah, that does seem to surprise a lot of people, but he's a phenom just about everywhere the fight goes, and I think the whole world's going to find that out pretty soon.
Yeah, it should be fun, man. And so, you know, a bunch of fights coming up too. You know, I got Alexei Olenek. He's fighting your guy.
Yeah, Mark Hunt.
Yeah, the Aussie Mark Hunt. So it should be a fun one in Moscow. We'll see how that goes. You know, Mark Hunt kills people with every punch, and Alexei will put you to sleep even when he's mounted. So this should be a fun night to watch. You know,
it really is a pick 'em fight, that one. I mean, it's anyone's guess what's going to go down.
Yeah. Next week I have Kayla Harrison, the 3-time or 2-time, whatever it is, gold medalist judo champion. She's fighting in the PFL again. She's probably one of our rising stars when it comes to American top team.
Sure.
Heard crazy stories about her. She was Ronda Rousey's partner and teammate back in the day. And from what I heard, man, she held her own and actually got the best of Ronda at some points in those practices. So
wow.
I mean, and on top of that, she's willing to learn, and she's hungry as hell. She's a definite go-getter, and she's one of those people that just, like, loves to train and loves the process, but also wants to get out there and wants to compete and doesn't want to, you know, have any distractions whatsoever. It's all about business. So she kind of reminds me of Joanna when it comes to that, to that focus and that tunnel vision. And, you know, especially when it comes down to training, like it's no playing around unless she's talking shit to her boyfriend, Tony Martin, who's in the UFC, by the way. It's just funny to watch, you know. But other than that, man, she's definitely a force to be reckoned with, and she's one of my prospects that I enjoy to actually watch and see what happens, you know. So that's
absolutely.
a good one.
I think I read a quote of hers on why she got into MMA, and it was something like, because how else am I going to be known as the baddest woman on the planet?
Yeah, she's definitely like that for sure. And the funny thing is, like, the nicest girl ever, but she will fuck you up. Like, she will toss you through a window easily. Judo toss, fucking suplex, whatever you want. She's strong. She's got like my size arms. Like, her arms are as big as mine almost. You know? And
that's saying something,
like,
man.
yeah, for real, man. So. And, I mean, for sure, I think that once she develops all of her skills when it comes down to striking and even jiu-jitsu, it's going to be a problem for any female in that division or in any division, to be honest with you, because she's actually fighting a weight class up, and she will be fighting at 135 eventually. So we'll see what's going on with that. But that's some good stuff that we're looking forward to, and I'm, putting together the programs for that. And then Will Brooks has his fight coming up. He's fighting another one of my guys. Yeah, PFL. He's fighting another one of my guys, Rashid Magomedov, who's another crazy Dagestanian who's a straight killer in there. So it's a little weird, man. I have, again, two of my guys fighting, just like we did last time, and even with the girls that I've obviously trained with, Joanna and Tecia. But I'm beginning to be like, okay, this is gonna be a standard thing in most points, especially with the PFL, because there's just so many. It's a stacked division in the 55 division, and then just in general with that whole tournament where there's everybody and anybody going in there trying to make $1 million. So it's going to be good, but it is a little weird as a coach. The good thing is that, like, I'm getting them physically prepared, and that's the good thing about being a preparation coach and a performance coach, is that you're actually really just getting them prepared to train and to stay progressing, but also, manage fatigue. And you're not really training them to hurt each other. You're just training them to not hurt themselves, in a sense. You know what I mean? So it's different. If I was a skills coach, it'd probably be a little different, but it is what it is. And
that's one of the things.
I don't like to call us strength and conditioning coaches, like I told you before, because then they just center us as strength and conditioning, where that's not what we do. And that, there's 100 things that we do on a daily basis that doesn't have to do with strength and conditioning. So, but
yeah, well, I think one of the things you said in either the Melbourne or the Sydney seminar was that, we're not just strength conditioning coaches. We're not just performance coaches. Essentially what we are stress managers. Because all of these things in the training, there's are stresses which we manage. The nutrition, you can go through nutritional stresses which can negatively impact your performance. And then there's the personal side of things where you've got emotional, mental, relational stresses as well, which to some degree I know you do personally, Phil, but we have to kind of take on the role as a counsellor of sorts. And helping people go through stuff in their personal lives. So it is really an all-encompassing role. And I think you're right. We need to help educate people on all these different facets of our role, and just help people understand the importance of it, and helping tie all the pieces together as a performance coach.
Yep, for sure. I mean, like I said, it doesn't end when you leave the gym. If you think that, if you're just a set and rep counter, and you think that that's all you need to do, and you need to just put out programs, and you'd be just a fucking programmer, or you'd be a trainer. You're not a coach. When you're a coach, it doesn't leave you. It stays with you. You're constantly checking up on your guys. You're constantly trying to get better. You're trying to improve your athlete's performance, along with the ability to manage that fatigue. And that's something that we need to make sure that we are doing on a constant basis. Otherwise, like I said, you're just a personal trainer, and that's it.
Yeah.
So, no offense to the personal trainers out there, by the way.
I can totally agree with what you're saying there. It's one of the things that sets us apart. And again, like one of the biggest takeaways that I'm sure the guys in the Australian seminar tour, got from your seminars. So yeah, thank you again for that.
Oh, no problem, man. It was a pleasure, man. Those guys are definitely hungry and willing to learn, but also very, very intelligent. They're not. You guys are not like beginner coaches at all by any means. You know, I mean, you guys know standard biomechanics, you know physics, you know anatomy, you know all the things you need to know to put together a program and actually go into a coaching realm. But then it's also getting on the floor and teaching and learning through people and learning through circumstances. And that's something that comes in time.
Yeah.
And you don't just get that in 2 years or 3 years or getting out of college and just reading a book.
That's right.
You have to actually put in time. You have to be working with a lot of different types of individuals. And the great thing that I have on my side right now is that I've been at American Top Team. I've owned my own gym business since I was, 22 years old. I've started training and coaching at the age of 20, where I've taught and worked with plenty of different people, plenty of different genres of people, archetypes. And I can truly say that once you can understand people, you can develop your principles. And I've developed my principles to the fact that where, at any point in time, I can stick to my systems and I know they're going to work, and I just have to plug and play per circumstance. And that's something that coaches need to understand before they start to really, really get into that next level of coaching.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you talk about the psychology and the art of coaching. I mean, what we've really got here is the coach's eye, but also EQ, emotional intelligence, and these are things that, as you say, are very, very difficult to develop if you're not naturally gifted in those areas. So, what do you think are some of the resources that some of the coaches out there, might benefit from getting their hands on books or speakers or, any research that you've read in these areas to help guys develop?
I wish I could give you a whole lot of research and a whole lot of books to read. I've truly have just been doing this forever, and it's really just real world application. And at the end of the day, I guess the best book out there right now when it comes down to coaching and understanding athletes in general is Conscious Coaching by Brett Bartholomew.
Brett,
And I think Brett's book kind of hits it on the nail. There's a few others out there that Brett actually talks about in his book, and it's not from our realm. It's not from quote unquote strength and conditioning. It's more from the psychology of people and understanding people more than anything. And if you can get that, and with coaches too, man, you got to understand that you can't only learn from your specific realm. You have to go outside and actually learn from a business book and learn from a psychology book and learn from like a general health book and things like that. And you will understand more about how to actually, understand people and then put together plans of action, especially if you're trying to own your own business as a coach. You're trying to own your own gym. You need to have a little bit of business mind. So you need to look at guys like Gary Vaynerchuk. You need to look at guys like Elon Musk. You need to look at these individuals too as well. And then on top of that, you want to be able to, outsource and network with individuals like that can actually help you along with that. So if you're a coach trying to open up a gym, I would highly recommend you look into business entrepreneurship, things like that, because you can't just rely on your coaching ability. You need to be able to market and network. And that's something that's very important. And getting into as far as the art of coaching and the science behind the art of coaching, one, without a doubt, you want to make sure that you're getting on the floor and you're coaching and teaching and learning from other individuals and multiple types of individuals, from all different realms. I got guys from Dagestan all the way from the inner city of Miami. So, I mean, they're totally different people, but I know how to actually reframe, and I know how to talk to them, and I know how to make sure to get to them so that they can trust in the program. And that really comes from just being around these people. I honestly urge every coach, and I tell my interns to do this all the time, is, take about, 5 minutes to talk to at least 5 people a week on anything but strength and conditioning.
Yeah.
Get into a full conversation with them and actually see and go into detail. Ask them questions. If you ask questions, you control the conversation. So that's something that I tell my interns to do on a constant basis. And that's something that we have in the internship program here and into the mentorship program that I will be coming out with. That's something that you guys will have to be doing, is actually going out there and actually conversing with individuals that aren't a part of your realm, that aren't a part of your world, because you have to get comfortable with that, because you're gonna have athletes and you're gonna have clients that come to you that don't know shit about anything you're doing. They don't have a clue, and you have to reframe and you have to tell them what they're doing is, or what you're doing for them is going to be beneficial, and they have to buy into the situation because they have to trust in what you do and what you tell them. And then from there, you have to make sure you make a connection. So that's something that I would say for young coaches in general, but even coaches now, man, that think that they have it all planned out. I think that it's always good to learn and always have that, like we talked about before, that white belt mentality. I know it gets cliche at times, but man, it's true. You've always got to be able to learn and progress. And like I said, if you're not doing that, you're going to be stuck in a standstill. And ultimately, your entire abilities are actually going to degrade. So we don't want that as individuals. We don't want that as coaches.
Absolutely, man. Now, why don't we change gears a little bit? We've got some questions that came through during the week. You put the word out on your social media for anyone to shoot through any questions for us to answer on the show. So why don't we get cracking on those, mate?
Yeah, so I got a few that I liked that I got from a couple of social media outlets. One's from Facebook, from actually one of my fighters, Steve Montgomery.
The creepy weasel.
He says, the creepy weasel, yeah. He actually has his own podcast out. It's called The Creep Show, I believe, which is kind of funny. If you guys want to check that out, man, he's a crazy guy, man. He used to have a mullet, he cut it off, but he's a crazy dude, man. But his question was, with all the information you gather on a consistent basis, how do you keep up with all of the overfilling of your brain? Do you ever have to reconsider what you thought you once knew and throw out old information? At the end of the day, it is important to gather useful information on a consistent basis. But with that being said, you want to be educated, but you want to be educated enough to call out the bullshit, right? I advise you to gather that information, but don't necessarily take it, to the full extent, right? Anything that that it can have significant merit or hold true, that's something that you want to utilize. But the things that you can't utilize, you need to kick it out to the wayside. Like, once again, the more experience in the game, you can start to identify what is good and what isn't. And always have an open mind, but don't be afraid to ask questions, and don't be afraid to actually question what you've read, because sometimes journals and what people may think or what people may say is just anecdotal at best. So you got to make sure that you can kind of, find out or understand if that is true or not true. And then from there, you can go ahead and take it the way it is. But I would also make sure that you do your research if you do find out information like that. Do you agree?
I agree. Also, when it comes to research and journal articles, a lot of the time there's an agenda behind what is being presented. And another thing, another concept that keeps popping up for me is that when it comes to science and data, you can prove just about anything you want to prove. And we've seen that in a whole bunch of junk science over the last 50 years of stuff that's been pushed through into mainstream, become accepted as norm, and turned out being false or being incorrect and actually harmful, for example. So I think when it comes to what you're saying, questioning the knowledge that you're intaking is very, very important.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm talking about, is like, at the end of the day, like, you can take in what you need to, but push away the stuff that is irrelevant for your specific circumstances. And if it's not really if it's not really tried and proven and true, and it may be true for them and it may not be good for you. So you got to make sure that it fits the circumstances that you're going through, even with all the studies that say, oh, this is definitely going to work, even with the science, you have to make sure that you put it into play and you actually test it for your own good. And if it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. You can't just go by that just because science says it works and it works only for everybody and you see with your own eyes that it doesn't work. So you have to push it away.
Agreed. And I'd encourage all young coaches out there to actually experiment with things, to actually try and control as many variables as you can, and push your athletes or your clients through certain modalities that you want to learn more about. Like, where you can get away with treating your clients and your athletes like guinea pigs, I would encourage you to actually do so, to trial things out.
Right.
On yourself, I suppose, is probably the best practice, to try things out yourself and then control the variables for your athletes. But I mean, some of the biggest mind-blowing moments have been from actual experiments that we've conducted here at Fitline. Now, although I don't necessarily have the strongest scientific background, I've been able to conduct these experiments, if you like, on my own terms and learn a lot along the way. So always learning, man, always evolving, always experimenting.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I do see that too. You guys do a lot of experimenting and a lot of data-driven based science that I do, I like, and I see that it is beneficial for you guys, and it's beneficial for everyone. It's just some people may not have the ability to do it, or just not have the know-how, and you guys are definitely doing it to the 10th degree. So I'm happy to see that,
Thank you.
So we got another question. No problem. We got another question from Ben_Marshall Spirit on Instagram. He writes, of the certifications you've attained, what do you think have been the most valuable for fighters' preparation and longevity as an athlete? Mac, you want to go with this one first?
Sure, brother. Okay, Ben, as you may or may not know, the majority of my education has come through the Poliquin Group, so I went all the way through that and got my level 5 certification through the Poliquin Group. While that's been hugely beneficial in building baseline for performance and, strength qualities, things like hypertrophy and improving body composition, that's great. That's all fantastic. But when it comes to the more advanced modalities like rate of force development, power, explosiveness, like sport-specific strength qualities, for the fight athletes, we need to look further than just these basic strength qualities. So I'd recommend diving headfirst into the old Soviet Union, Russian Eastern Bloc methods, learning as much as you can about those to get a base level understanding, and then doing a course like FMA. The FMA certification covers so much ground. I'm not sure if you guys have that over there in the States, but here in Australia, and Ben, I know you're from here in Melbourne, I would encourage you to first get a base level understanding of the old Soviet Union methods, and then take on FMA and really, really pay attention, because you could do that FMA course 5 times and still be learning new shit every single time you do it. It's just such a dense course. So that would be my recommendation for a guy here in Melbourne wanting to learn that stuff about fight athletes.
Yeah, that's I've heard good things about that, and you've talked about that plenty of times with the FMA. Yeah. I'm interested to see, we should link up and actually I should check that out once I go out there one time,
sure,
see what they're talking about, But for me, I would say, out of all the certifications that I've gotten, and I've been through a lot, but I would say the one thing that I know has been really beneficial is functional range conditioning, and just because of the fact that it's gained so much overall progression in performance, but also it reduced a ton of risk of injuries that have acquired through, especially with combat sports. But Dre has laid out for my fighters and clients to not only enhance performance, but like I said, to reduce the overall injury rate. And that's coming from increased mobility and control of the body through all different ranges of motion and all throughout every joint capsule. So understanding that and actually putting that into practice and putting it into my programs, we've seen tremendous increases in overall mobility, but also increasing the overall performance and reducing of those non-contact injuries due to, tightness and stiffness. And then, not just activating the mechanoreceptors in certain situations and certain movement patterns in certain positions in a fight. And that's one thing that we harp on at FRC is gaining that active range of motion and that true mobility to activate mechanoreceptors in, all different crazy positions so that you can, be strong in those positions and not have the opportunity to get hurt or get injured in those weird, unorthodox positions, especially in jiu-jitsu and combat sports. You know how it is. You can have flexibility all day, but if you don't have control of that position, you have no true mobility. And if you don't have true mobility, there's no real benefit from that. So that's one thing that I can truly say that it's taken my coaching ability and my programs to the next level, and then the overall performance of my athletes have skyrocketed from it. So can't harp on that enough. And they don't pay me to say this, by the way. I do like Spina. That's my boy. But I do, like I said, I'm 100%, and I'm being transparent here. You guys, if you want to check it out, go to Functional Range Systems or functionalrangeanatomy.com, and you can check out all of their certifications. They do have several, but Functional Range Conditioning for coaches is an ideal certification to get. Yeah. Boom. They should pay me. I'm gonna call Spina for that one.
And yeah, just FYI, Ben, we are certainly planning on contacting the guys at FRC and bringing them out to Melbourne for a certification course. So stay tuned for that. What else we got?
So let's get into it. All right, so we got one more, and I want to knock this out real quick. And let me find it real quick. Okay, so this one is unknown. Not unknown strength.
No, that wasn't me.
Not unknown strength. But so this, I'll find out the name and I'll put it in the show notes. But it is from Instagram, and he writes, "What exercise do you recommend for posterior chain strength for a dynamic effort day that is not deadlifts?"
Not deadlifts.
Okay, not deadlifts.
Good one.
Yeah. You want to go first, or you want me to take it?
Well, I'll throw one suggestion in there. Something that's not a deadlift. Well, any variation of hip hinge, using a back extension, for example, that would be a good one. You could do a banded back extension if the athlete were up for it and able to do it, and no structural or functional anomalies preventing them from doing that movement dynamically. What do you think, Phil?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to go with reverse hypers, glute ham raise, RDLs, good mornings. All are good exercises for the posterior chain. You don't have to just work deadlifts if you want to work dynamic effort. And if you do want to work dynamic effort, we're talking speed strength. So I would do something like a barbell hang pull or hang clean and a kettlebell swing. Something, again, that we talked about that you said is a hip hinge, and we want to work on that hip hinge movement pattern. If you're trying to work, quote unquote, that posterior chain, you're trying to work the muscles of the upper back, lower back, mid back, and then obviously the glutes and the hamstrings. So we want to make sure that we're utilizing exercises that's going to induce that muscle activation back there. But also, if you're working dynamic effort, and that's what he's saying here, is you want to move submaximal weight very fast. So at the end of the day, I think that those kettlebell swings and those hang cleans are going to be beneficial as well.
Yeah, that's great. There's a lot of there's a lot of choices out there for posterior chain development, certainly in a dynamic block or a dynamic subset of training. But I think you need to learn how to individualize as well. So you need to understand the athlete, understand where they're at in their training cycle, and exactly what things are going to benefit them most. Biomechanically speaking, where are the sticking points in their lifts that need the most work, things like that. Just having an overall understanding of the athlete and their needs will go a long way in determining what's the best exercise in this particular circumstance.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, you guys are giving us general questions, so we're going to give you a general answer. If you want to be more specific, you can DM me or Mac at Unknown Strength, and then we can definitely go into deeper detail, or even email me, phil@darustrong.com, and we can go into detail there on what will be specific for you and what will be beneficial for you. But that's all the questions we have for this episode. What do you think, Mac? How you feeling so far?
Loving it, man.
41.
Episode 41 in the books. Feeling great, man. I'm loving this. Hey, by the way, what did you think of the new intro music?
Yeah, I was just about to say that, man. Our intro music is fire. I'm not gonna lie. We did a good job there. You did a great job finding that guy out, man.
Thanks, man.
I'm happy with it, man. I think it's bringing a new style, a new flavor to the Fight Strength podcast. So I'm glad that we hooked that up, and then and also the new graphics too are awesome as well.
Excellent.
So,
yeah, no, we're pretty happy with the job our guys have done. Going with that Meek Mill feel for the intro music, I was stoked with that, man. I thought, bang, nailed it.
Yeah, it's perfect. See, my daughters will think I'm outdated. They think I'm old now because I'm choosing Meek Mill instead of Young Thug or whatever they listen to now. I don't know. I don't even know anymore. I need to get up with the times, I guess. I need to see what's what. I got to be more conscious of what's going on right now in pop culture. But Meek Mill always does the job for me. He was always one of my walkout songs when I was fighting. So I gotta go with it on my Fight Strength podcast. I gotta do it. You know what I'm saying?
You gotta do it.
Yeah, man. So, all right, man. Anything else? Any last things you want to talk about, or are we good to go for this one, and we'll go for 42 next couple weeks?
Yeah, let's wrap it up. We'll go for 42 in a couple weeks, and if anyone has any questions or any topics you want us to cover on our next show, number 42, just DM Phil at Daru Strong or DM me at Unknown Strength, and we'll get back to you, and we'll make sure we'll include that in our run sheet for the next episode.
And last thing I want to say is if anybody's looking to sponsor the show, we are looking for sponsors. You can email me, phil@darustrong.com, or DM on Instagram, Daru Strong, and we'll send out all the information there as well. Thanks, Mac. I want to thank you again for getting on here with me and rapping a couple of good content for all these coaches, and we will do it next time, right?
My pleasure, brother. Always a pleasure.
All right, bro.
All right, ciao for now.